The way I was describing it, I think I said that the real world is kind of like a bizarre version of Facebook where every profile is just a single photo. And as we go about our day, we're browsing this terrible version of Facebook or LinkedIn. If LinkedIn were like the real world,
fucking terrifying thing I've ever heard.
if LinkedIn were like the real world, it would be a collection of millions of profiles where every profile is just a single page and it's no words, no names, just a blank photo and a message button, and that's it. And if I wanted to find an iOS engineer or a small business accountant, I would have to randomly message people and say, pardon me, is there any chance you happen to be a small business accountant? Nope, sorry about that. Pardon me, ma'am, is there any, I mean, it's so bad and terrible and awful and broken, you can't even imagine using it. And that's the way the real world is, and it always has been. And all of a sudden, we have technology that it's completely changing what's possible. I mean, imagine if you can walk into a room and you can look around at anyone, and just by looking at someone, you can know all about them. You can know their name and where they work and all the friends you have in common with them. And you can have something that surfaces the more interesting connections around you wherever you go. Like, that woman over there actually knows your mother, and that girl likes all the same obscure authors that you like, and your friend's on the other side of the wall right now. And I just know, that in the future this is just going to exist. And we're going to look back on it and say, I can't believe we didn't used to have that. I can't believe we used to walk around blind, not knowing anything about anyone. Like, how do we know who to talk to when we had a question about something? How do we know who spoke our language when we were visiting a foreign city? How do we know what our friends were next door? How do we get by and navigate our day? I mean, just like we do with cell phones today, right? We say, what do we do before we can instantly magically talk to anyone in the world? How do we coordinate and meet up? And I can't believe that was just 10 years ago.
That's one of the things I love about technology entrepreneurs. It takes a special sort of psychology to sort of look at the world
as such a nice way to put it.
Broken system with kind of faulty architecture that you want to remedy. It's fantastic. Okay, tell us how you're fixing it.
Yeah. So what I described is what we want to build at Highlight, and it's still really, really basic. I mean, the way it works is you install the app and you sign in with Facebook, and that's it. It says, great, Highlight's now activated. We'll let you know when there's someone interesting nearby. In the meantime, close the app and go do something fun. And the core concept is that if you're standing near me and you've installed the app, then if your privacy settings allow for it, your profile will show up on my phone. And I can see your photos, so I know it's you. I can see your full name. I can see where you work. I can see all the friends that we have in common. I can see all the other stuff we have in common, like if we went to the same school or we're from the same hometown and we like a lot of the same bands. And here's the craziest part. I can see a history of all the times that we've crossed paths before.
Yes, that's terrifying.
And if I'm walking down the street and Highlight sees someone particularly interesting walk near me, it'll notify me.
How does it know who's interesting?
That's a really good question. Yeah.
So I find lots of people interesting. But I can't imagine how an algorithm would ever be able to tell me who I would find interesting.
It starts off. You can start off with a really. I mean, the way we do it is that anytime two phones are near each other, the app has some decisions to make. Are these two people relevant enough that their profiles should show up on each other's phones? If so, what fields should we surface and should we send a notification? And you can start with a really simple set of rules underlying that, but ultimately, those decisions should be deeply informed by the context. And so initially it's things like, are we friends? If not, do we have a bunch of friends in common? Do we have a bunch of other things in common? If so, are the things that we have in common particularly interesting? Have we crossed paths in this place before? Because if I'm your roommate or your coworker, you probably don't want to get notified about me every day, right? But really, there's so much context that you have that you can use to make this a better experience. You could look at things like, is it daytime or nighttime? Is this person at work or are they out?
So would I find different people interesting at different times?
Absolutely. And in different places, you'd find different people interesting. Yeah. And think about the combinations of those.
You're trying to work out how that works.
Yeah, we want it to be like the keypad on the iPhone or the Google search box in the sense that for the user it just works. Like, you shouldn't have to think about what the radius should be or what the rules should be or how many friends you have to have in common to trigger notifications. It should just work. But under the hood, there's all this math going on that just makes it better and better and better.
It's an interesting engineering challenge.
It's a fascinating engineering challenge, and big data challenge, and social engineering.
And it sounds like the most annoying thing in the world. I'm walking the phone's going, okay, fine. No, it's not a text, it's just telling me that Lindsay in Starbucks might be interesting to me. Well, she fucking isn't. I've got to get to a meeting.
Yeah, false positives are annoying, right?
Right, but I mean, how do you sort of scale up and scale down notifications, and how do you deal with it? Because notifications are kind of under the aegis of whatever operating system that you're running under, right?
Yeah.
So you have a lot of quite difficult challenges.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, you basically start this simple set of assumptions, and it just gets more sophisticated and better over time. And so you can do basic things like, throttling. Don't send more than X notifications per day. You can do day part throttling. Then you can do, you can look at response rates, and you can see, this person wants to get lots of notifications because they keep responding to everyone. This person doesn't. And I think ultimately, if we're successful,